I spent 36 hours at the Atlanta airport during a major winter storm. So I'm going to give you some things you may not have known, some tips and tricks to help you during that stay, and just some lessons learned. So I flew into Atlanta. I was actually headed to, at the time, Sarasota, and we were expecting the storms. Like before I left where I currently am, I knew the storm was coming. And so I was a little bit surprised when we took off because I know it had started there. They were expecting 4 inches of snow. And for those who are not aware, Atlanta Airport does not do snow well. And they were expecting ice. I was on Delta Airlines, but this kind of went with all the airlines. But for my particular experience, I was on Delta. One of the things that really surprised me, so we did land, they only had one tarmac open during this particular snowstorm at this time, at least for Delta. Our plane did land. But literally, when we landed, like the entire concourse that we were in, everything was delayed or canceled. So there was all these people in the Atlanta airport, delayed or canceled, with still people coming in that were able to land, which really kind of surprised me that they would do that, but they did. One thing to note, one thing that surprised me, Atlanta's a big airport, and I would say about half of the restaurants and the stores were closed. And they were closed because the workers who would work there that live in Atlanta couldn't get in. So either the highways were too dangerous or they had called in for whatever reason. So that was a consistent message that we all kept hearing throughout the day as we were there, that don't be surprised if maybe stores that you were used to using or shops you were used to using or restaurants are closed, because they were. The other challenge this happened as the storm continued to go on throughout the day and into the evening is I was checking on hotels because I was pretty confident my flight was going to get canceled, even though at that time it was delayed. And there wasn't a hotel that was even available within a 30-mile radius. Everything was full and booked up. So know that hotels will be limited. The little minute sleep rooms that they had, they were closed. There was nobody working at those minute sleep rooms that you can purchase by the hour to sleep in. Now it's possible they were using it for crew. I do not know. What I do know is they were closed and there was nobody there if you thought maybe that would be an option to get some sleeping time in. Pilots and agents are limited. So throughout the whole concourse of the day, you just felt this kind of anxiety building, I would say, as more planes were delayed, more people were canceled, more people were coming in, and nobody really knew what was going to be happening. So agents were tired. So I would say, please be kind to your agent. They really are doing the best they can, but they did not know. And things were just kind of escalating as the day went on, as more and more flights just continue to either get delayed or canceled. Even if your plane lands, your crew may or pilot may be out of hours or not available. And that happened to, in my case. So as the day went on and it went into the evening, we saw that our plane on the app. So if you do not have the app for your airplane, for your airline, that would be tip number one. Make sure you're looking at that app. You can see where your plane is. And so we kind of were in our gate as it kept changing and things were getting canceled. We all were kind of monitoring that. And our plane ended up leaving Milwaukee that evening and was landing. And so we were one of the same few flights that kept still saying delayed, and it would just back the time up. At this particular time, the plane was supposed to land about 11:30 p.m. and so our flight ended up getting pushed back to 1:30 in the morning. So we thought, well, the plane landed, they backed us up to 1:30 in the morning. Maybe we're actually are going to take off because the weather issue was gone at that point. But literally at 1 a.m. they canceled it. So we did not take off. I think the frustrating part for all of us was, how could they not have known that from a communication point at 11:30 when the plane landed? But regardless, they didn't. It is what it is. So what do you do when that happens? Every time we would get a flight delay, we would have an option for the rebooking that you could accept or not accept on your app or email. I was accepting it at that time because it was getting delayed until I could know more about what was happening. When my flight actually got canceled, I got an option then where actually everything kind of went black, if you will. No option came up at that point when it got canceled. So what are your options to do, or what did I do? Number one, customer service. You can start customer service, and I would say you could start that. You could start one of two ways. There was a line at the airport. Let me tell you, this really was not helpful at all. Also, on your app, you can start in a queue on the app to get into customer service. This wasn't helpful at all, and I'll tell you why. if you are not a status, like with Delta in my instance, you kept getting backed up. So at one point when I got in mid-afternoon with the customer service on the app, I was like at 354 people ahead of me. Literally at 4 in the morning the next day, I was at 650 because everybody who has some of a status ahead of you or higher status kept getting bumped. So customer service, in my opinion, was really kind of a waste of time. Even at the airport itself, there was so many people in line. You would have to go up and scan a QR code just to get a queue number to know when to get in line. So it was literally hours that people were waiting and still had never saw customer service. So I don't know if it was just lack, and I know it was lack of agents and people due to the storm of not getting in and other obviously issues happening. But keep in mind, customer service may or may not be of assistance. Now, if it's just your particular flight and it's not happening in a whole airport, this might be moot. You might get right in, no trouble. But what did I do? What is other tips you can do when this happens? So I actually accepted the rebooked flight, and it took a couple hours. I did not contact anyone. I was looking at other flights, but I was unable to book those flights. What we believe happened is Delta locked everything out so their customer service could work through those flights. I don't know if that's true. That's just what we were told. So I was unable to book like a continuation of that same flight for the next day. However, I was able to book a brand new flight to Naples. For my story, I was actually flying to Sarasota to visit my parents for a couple days, and then I was driving to Naples, which is going to be my end destination. So I ended up just booking another flight to Naples the next day. So I ended up having two flights. So here would be a pro tip. When they rebook you on another flight, you have the option to accept that at a later time. So I kind of waited as the morning went on, and it was 1 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, as all flights were going, and no flights got out, by the way, until 3 p.m. the next day. And I ended up accepting the Naples flight, and I started the refund process for the canceled flight to Sarasota. So if you have the means to purchase another flight, you can do that and then work on the back end getting refunded on your original flight. And that process did go through. I sent an email through the customer service, and they contacted me through their email service a couple days later. So that's just one option that you can do, is do two flights. Another option that you can do that somebody was with me did is, as long as you have a boarding pass, you can actually leave the, I guess I'll call it TSA concourse security area, go to the front, like go actually out the airport and go back through the front and talk to a Delta agent at the front, because nobody's coming in at this point because all the flights are canceled, and talk with somebody there. She said she's done that many times and it worked for her. I do not know if it worked for her in this instance, if somebody was actually there, but she was leaving with her boarding pass to get through security again, once she had a rebooked flight. So that would be an option you could consider, but make sure you have your boarding pass to be able to get through security and back in. Don't leave unless you have that boarding pass. So that would be another option you can do. So as the day went on and the evening went on, like I said, people were very emotional. So keep your calm, because there's really not much that can be done about it. But I was surprised by the lack of, I guess I'll call it, agents in the concourse at all. You're pretty much on your own. At the time that we were there all night, there was literally only two places open. Most of the restaurants closed at 6 p.m., closed early, significantly early. Either A, because their staff didn't show up for the evening, or B, they were just running out of food and drinks. Because the delivery services or the agents or their workers to help with the delivery services weren't there. So I would recommend, if you're there and it's a storm and things are closing, get some food and drink early, because you may not have an option as the evening goes on, because many of these places closed at 6 p.m. and put a note on their door. There was one little shop open that sold water, and they stayed open all night. They actually slept there, so it was fantastic. And I bought a blanket and a neck pillow because we were spending the night because there was no hotels. So know that you might have to have some resources to buy a pillow and a blanket, but just keep that in mind. Also, if you have a priority credit card and you can get into some of the priority lounges, those were full and closed. So all through the day, there was a line to get into those lounges. Most people weren't leaving them because they have a capacity limit. So people weren't able to get in those as well. And they end up closing. You can't stay there through the night, at least not at the Atlanta airport for the storm that we were in. I was so happy to have gone carry-on only. So if you can do carry-on only, especially if you know there's a potential for a storm, I would highly recommend it. I did decide to go carry-on only, and I brought my rolling carry-on, and I had my Tumi under the seat personal item bag. If you are interested in that, I do have a video that I talk about that, and I am so glad I had that. I was able to wash my face. I was able to brush my teeth. I was able to put on some warmer and more comfortable clothes. So I could just feel more freshened up in the evening and in the morning. And there were so many people that didn't have those options because 36 hours is a long time to be at an airport. So I would say it kind of is one of those things that I might be a carry-on only girl moving forward because of that. If you did check a bag, and obviously thousands of people did, I talked to many people who split up and the next day when baggage claim was open again, because you have to remember all of these flights were canceled and the baggage handlers, a lot of those people apparently did not get into work either. So the bags were just kind of being stored somewhere. When they would go down to try to get their bag and find their bag for a new flight, they waited 3 hours in line to basically be told they don't know where it's at yet and they'll be contacted when they do. So that's another reason that caused some frustration why going carry on only allowed me the flexibility to book 2 flights. I did not have to worry about my baggage. I was able to be flexible with those flights. So keep that in mind as well. Portable chargers are a must. Now, I always talk about bringing portable chargers. I talk about my favorite portable chargers. If you're interested in that, I have an essentials video. I can talk about that. But bring portable chargers because you're not always going to have outlets, and keeping your phone active is literally your life, your life in being able to get that stuff taken care of, and how they're going to be communicating with you. They're not going to come seek you out. You have to have a phone that they can contact you either via email or text or both or through the app. There are rules now for certain reasons why you get refunded on your tickets, and some of those reasons apply for most things, but for weather it doesn't always apply. Now with Delta, I had no issues. I got the refund. It was no problem. But I took snapshots with my phone of all of my receipts. So anything that got canceled, my new flights, my old flight, so that if there was an issue, I would be able to quickly get that taken care of with Delta. But just know you are entitled to some refunds depending on the situation, but there can be exemptions for weather. But in this case, I didn't have any issues at all. Also, check with your credit card. If for some reason you don't get a refund, often the credit cards that you booked it on has some emergency refunds options as well, but you will need those receipts. So that is very, very important to keep those photo delays and cancellations on all the receipts that you used. Hopefully you found this helpful. I guess there were some things that I was not expecting, like things to be closed and to be running out of water. But hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, if you please could give me a like and subscribe, it really does help move my channel forward.